Welcome to Cool Sports Guy, everybody. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett, and we have lots to talk about, especially Super Bowl. Your Cooper Cup's in it. Jarrett, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Really excited for the big game on Sunday.
Yeah, 3 more days. I can't believe it's literally this weekend. Um, well, at least one of your picks are in it. Congratulations! But before we get to the Super Bowl, I do want to start talking about some coaches. There's a lot of coaching hires going on throughout the NFL. There's a lot of controversial coaching hires going on throughout the NFL, but we're going to just focus on our favorite and least favorite coaches. So I'm going to let you take this one and start it off. Who's your favorite coaching hire?
For my favorite coaching hire, I know like with coaching, a lot of it is kind of random. Like it's very hard to predict if a coach is going to be good or not. So I'm basing this off of just like hypothetical, like my opinion, who I know more about, that type of thing. And for my favorite head coaching hire, I actually went with the Bears' new head coach, Matt Eberflus. I know that sounds incredibly biased, but obviously he's the one I know the most about. I've learned a lot about him in the past few weeks. I mean, obviously I've studied the other ones as well, but like how Matt Eberflus seems to conduct his team is exactly how I've always wanted the head coach on the Bears to do. Because in the past we've had like Matt Nagy, who is the offensive guru, who is supposed to play calls, score points, which he couldn't even do. And before him was John Fox, which John Fox I think was, I don't want to say outdated as a head coach, but he was outdated as a head coach. Before that was Mark Trestman, who again was an offensive guru. Obviously didn't work out. He at least put up points, which was better than Matt Nagy can say. But Matt Eberflus, he is very much like he doesn't even call plays on. He's not going to call plays on defense as a head coach. He's only going to be the head coach role, which I completely love. A lot of the better coaches in the NFL nowadays do that. The Bill Belichick's. He calls defensive plays, I believe, but more so just the head coach. John Harbaugh doesn't call plays. Mike Tomlin doesn't call plays. Uh, it's. I know that's like saying. I'm not saying that guarantees he's going to be a good coach, but I like that more than just trying to control one side of the team and the whole team overall. I like how he doesn't want to call plays. He's going to be over the team. So I did go with him. I think it's going to be a good fit. Kind of, I know it's hasn't worked out in the past for the Bears, but like a real Bears type of head coach where he plays physical, defensive minded. That's kind of thing I like. I think it'll be a good fit. For my least favorite, I'm not saying I have two choices on this one actually. I'm not saying either are bad choices, but I did go with Nathaniel Hackett, new head coach for the Denver Broncos. He was Green Bay's offensive coordinator. And then I have Kevin O'Connell, who is the new Vikings head coach, or soon to be. It's not official till after the Super Bowl because he's coaching for the Rams, so not official yet. But he was the Rams offensive coordinator. And if you can't tell what these two have in common, is why I have them as my least favorite, or at least I'm least confident in them, is the fact that neither of these two are play callers or have been play callers. Hackett, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. He actually called plays way back when in Jacksonville, the year that they made the AFC Championship game, and he did well with Blake Bortles. So I'll give him some credit there. O'Connell, to my knowledge, has never called plays, which, like I said, doesn't mean they're going to be bad necessarily. Maybe they'll just be really good at it. They've both learned under great coaches from the Shanahan tree, with Hackett learned under Matt LaFleur, and O'Connell's obviously learning under a Sean McVay. I just feel like hiring an offensive coordinator to be a head coach and to call plays when they've never called plays doesn't sit right with me. Maybe it's the Bears fan in me, and that's exactly what Matt Nagy was. But I just, like I said, they could surprise me, but I just have little confidence in that going well, given they don't have any experience in either being a head coach or calling plays. And that is why I picked them for my least favorite.
Fair enough. I'm going to start with my least favorite, and I think I've been pretty vocal about this, and I think I've even said that maybe I shouldn't be this vocal, or not that this vocal, but maybe I shouldn't hate on the guy so much. And my least favorite was Josh McDaniels, and well, for starters, I think he has been a head coach before, and he failed. I think that was my number one takeaway. not only that, I also think that as great as he is at offensive play calling, he's that's I feel like that's all he's kind of good at. I don't know if he's the greatest leader, and in coaching, and I we said talked about this before, but when it comes to coaching, especially head coaches, I think rather than if you call plays or whatnot, my main focus is can you be the leader of not only all 53 men on your roster, but also all of your assistant coach, your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your special teams coaches, all of the other assistant coaches, everyone that's going to look up to you to say, hey, lead us, whether that's by calling plays, not calling plays, whatever it is. And I just don't see that in Josh McDaniels. Could be very wrong. We could see an entirely different team. Where did he go? What?
Josh
Oh, the Raiders.
McDaniels with the
Raiders. I'm sorry.
Raiders.
Yeah, I was like, what? I just blanked on the team for a second. Yeah, we might finally see a Raiders team that's gonna win another 2 or 3 games extra and actually go somewhere in the playoffs rather than be one and done in the playoffs. So I'm not saying that it's gonna be all crap show, but at least from my understanding, or at least from what I know, I think Josh McDaniels is my least favorite coaching hire or head coaching hire. And plus, you brought up a good point. I know he joked about how the Colts deserved it, but I mean that also says a lot of who he is as a character and a person. So yeah, I don't think I don't see Josh McDaniels being a real successful, which makes me feel bad for Derek Carr because I really want him. Like I really like Derek Carr, and I feel like he's such a good quarterback, and I really want to see him win. And it's just unfortunate. Um, but again, you never know. It might be helpful for Derek Carr. Might push him over the edge to from where to me he's pretty good right now. He might be great under McDaniels. Um, my favorite. It was I don't have a huge sample size on this for me to say it, but it was Dennis Allen, and I think that had a lot to do with nothing but that Bucks game. I think out of nowhere, when Sean Payton went out, he had to step up, act as the head coach, and he did a tremendous job. And that's the first time in what was it, 15, 16 years that Tom Brady was shut down completely. Um, and it's not just any team. It was that Bucks offense. They have a really good offense, and I mean, you know how terribly that game went. Players got injured, all of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, they gave trouble Brady like no other. They gave trouble to Brady in the playoffs. In my opinion, if Brees didn't turn over the ball 4 times, they probably would have won that game. They gave Brady trouble twice last season. They gave Brady trouble twice this season, and that's all the defense. The defense just kept giving him trouble. Um, I don't know if you remember the very first drive of the Saints Bucks game last year. The very first game they played, they opened in New Orleans, and it was a touchdown drive by the Bucks. Well, the very first Bucks drive, and since then they made so many adjustments throughout the rest of the game, with the rest of the first quarter and the 3 quarters after that, they held them to just another 10 more points. Or they ended up scoring 23, but the last touchdown was a garbage touchdown that nobody cared about them scoring. Um, so I think Dennis Allen has been doing such a tremendous job with the defense. With Drew Brees being there, we kind of overshadowed and overlooked it. Kept talking about how Drew Brees and the Saints, and Sean Payton and the Saints, but I don't think that defense was getting enough credit. And when he had to step up and lead the entire team, he did that. Did a tremendous job on scoring on the Bucks and making sure the Bucks didn't score. So I'm really excited. My only the only thing that makes me feel bad for the guys is going into this season. I feel like he's just. I mean, it's almost like hiring a coach for the Texans. He doesn't have much around him to work with. So I hope if the Saints are going to give him this opportunity, I really hope the Saints are just going to understand that it's going to take at least a year or two for them to put some new pieces around him to make sure the team is in a good position to win.
One thing I want to
So,
add about Dennis Allen is he was a head coach with Oakland back in like 2011 to 2014, I believe, somewhere around that time period, which that's why
okay, that's right.
because of that is why a lot of people don't think he's a very good hire, because I think he won 4 games, and then got fired after 4 games into his third season, which
Yeah,
obviously isn't ideal, but I feel like the situations are a lot different. You have the Oakland Raiders in that time period are not a very good
terrible.
team. I
Yeah.
think their GM traded like 2 first-round picks for Carson Palmer, who was threatening to retire. I not they didn't have a lot of talent on that roster, so I'm not going to blame Dennis Allen on that.
Yeah.
And also, I know I kind of crap on Josh McDaniels for the same thing, that he was a former head coach and he was awful as a head coach. But you can learn and get better. Dennis Allen went to the Saints, learned under Sean Payton, and I feel like that's a pretty big advantage. Obviously, Josh McDaniels could do the same thing. Will he? I don't know. He kind
Well,
of went back to the same situation that he was in the last time and is just repeating it. Uh, I think Dennis Allen's is a very underrated choice, and I'm kind of happy you brought that up because I don't think I would have mentioned him, but since you did, I kind of do like that hire. I think he'll be really solid. Like you said, though, the situation with the Saints, they're in as it's known, cap hell. I think they're like -70 or more in like under cap space or under the cap right now, which is not, or over the cap, excuse me, which is not ideal. I think it basically, if he can get Taysom Hill away from the quarterback position, I think he'll be fine.
yeah, and as far as learning from coaches, I Sean Payton is an amazing head coach in my opinion. I've always said that I think Bill Belichick is the best coach in the NFL. At least if not, he's one of the greatest coaches in the NFL. My only issue with that, though, however, is his trees. The a lot of the coaches that at least recently that came out and got head coaching jobs, not so hot. Um, the Giants fail. Dolphins didn't do the best. Josh McDaniels now, I don't know. That's what see again. I don't see it being that successful. Matt Patricia, freaking Matthew Stafford said I'll go anywhere but the Patriots after Matt Patricia went back to the Patriots. Um, so for that reason, I don't know. Maybe Belichick has the skills and Belichick is not. He can keep them in check while they're under him, but when they go off on their own, they're not ready. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's multiple new head coaching jobs and hires, and I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen with these teams next year. Um, we're gonna real quick talk about the game coming up, which is the Super Bowl.
Way to
In,
underplay that a little bit.
in case you guys didn't know, there's a game and a pretty I look forward to a pretty awesome halftime show coming up. Um, so we have the Super Bowl. Obviously, Rams are playing at home against the Bengals. Even though technically the Rams are the away team this year. Um, what's your final thoughts? Who do you got?
I think I've seen this on Twitter a bunch of times. This is like, in this Super Bowl is the battle of like the two most likable quarterbacks in the NFL. I feel like everyone's going to be upset no matter who wins or loses, just because you don't want to see the other team lose, and that's kind of how I feel. I've obviously been on the Rams bandwagon this entire year, and I've made that very obvious. But at the same time, Joe Burrow has been so much fun to watch, and he's a big part, like why I wrote my last article about the new like influx of franchise quarterbacks. I I'm picking the Rams to win this one, but I just feel bad for the Bengals because I know people are saying this is a fluke year, and even if it's not, it's very hard to get back to a Super Bowl. It's obviously not guaranteed, and I don't want the Bengals to lose this and then never make another one, which I don't think is going to happen. I think Joe Burrow's proven he's a winner, but I mean, we've been saying this the entire playoffs, and the Bengals yet win every game anyways. But I just feel like that the Rams are so much like better in the matchup of this. Because if you look at the Bengals, their defense has been fantastic, and their offense has been pretty good as well, other than their offensive line, which the Rams, one of their strengths is their pass rush, and I don't see that offensive line being able to contain Aaron Donald or Leonard Floyd or playoff Von Miller. I I don't want to say the Bengals have no shot because they obviously do. I would just be very surprised to see a Bengals win on this one.
Yeah. So throughout this entire week, I kept thinking about who might win it, who might lose it, what it might look like, who's gonna have a good game, bad game, whatnot. So obviously, you can't guarantee anything, right? I mean, if you look throughout Super Bowl, um, we've seen wild card teams just go in out of nowhere and actually win the whole thing. We've seen the number one show on turf, the Rams being held to 17 points in a Super Bowl. Um, we've seen the freaking New York Giants beat the undefeated Patriots. We've seen all kinds of things, so therefore I can't promise anything. That being said, the more I think about it, man, if the Bengals win this game, I will be surprised, proven wrong, and they'll have a lot of respect from me. If the but here's the real catch. I think the real catch is I think I'll be more surprised with the Bengals loss that's a close game than a Bengals loss that's a blowout. I think this will be an at least a two touchdown game by the time clock hits zero. And for the simple fact that we keep talking about Joe Burrow taking 9 sacks and actually winning the game. And that was against Tennessee, I believe, that he did
Yes.
that. Um, yeah, he didn't play good in that game,
Which I don't know
right?
if you can
Like,
really blame him for that, though. When you get sacked
well,
9 times.
right? No. I fully agree, but I'm just saying, as far as him winning the game, I don't think he won the game. I think Tennessee just lost the game. Tennessee turned the ball over 3 times, and I brought this up last week. One of them was the final drive where they were trying to go get to field goal range, and if they would have gotten the field goal range, they probably would have just won the game. If Tennessee is able to get to him 9 times, I don't know. I think the Rams can get to him more times. And then on top of that, I think the Rams offense is better than Tennessee's offense. Like, I don't care if you have Derrick Henry. I do truly believe the Rams offense is better. And I think McVay is a better offensive play caller than Mike Vrabel is. So for all those reasons, it's very hard for me to pick the Bengals. And the the Bengals, even if you look at every single one of their games, I mean, if Kansas City was smart about their very last drive or their overtime drive, if they would have played it better, they would have won the game. But more than the overtime drive, I think if they would have just been smart about their very final drive when they were at the first and goal position and then they couldn't convert and then took 2 back-to-back sacks, I think if they would have been smarter about those plays, they would be in the Super Bowl right now. I I have so many reasons to throw out there and say, well, the Bengals just, of course, they keep proving us wrong, but they just keeps getting that little lucky play here and there to make it here, and it's just like I just don't see continuing to happen. Um, I have a ton of respect for Joe Burrow. Amazing player. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. Hoping he does not get hurt. Cincinnati needs to find a way to protect the kid, but I just don't see them coming out on top in this game. I just absolutely don't. If we're in Houston, if we could bet, I would. I think I would put some money on the Rams. I think 4.5 is a pretty solid spot for me to say, you know what, I have enough faith to put it on the Rams. So
Yeah.
true story. But talk about the Rams. We do have. Want to talk about OBJ? He's going to be a free agent this coming year. Do you have any thoughts or opinions on where he should go, what he should do?
I want to say no doubt in my mind he should return to the Rams. I know he could probably go get money elsewhere, which if if they win the Super Bowl and that's all he wants, it's like he wants one ring, that's it. He'll go for the money now. I could see him leaving. I know this is going to sound super cheesy, but I feel like he just looks happier than he's been in his entire career now that since he's been with the Rams, and it's just such a good fit. Sean McVay is one of the best offensive play callers in the league, if not the best. I feel like it's I don't see him going anywhere else. I don't see a reason to go anywhere else. Because, I mean, like I said, unless it's for money, if you want to go play for, like, I don't know. I can't even think of a bad team off the top of my the Jaguars, and they're going to pay him like $20 million a year. Then maybe I don't know, but I don't see him leaving the Rams.
I
I feel
hope
like
he
it's a
doesn't
good
do
fit.
that.
I also think I
That's
don't want him to do that either. I think it's a good
that's
fit. I think
selling
he'll
your
win
soul for
games.
money.
Yeah, I think I was going to say the Giants because that's my go-to. They overpay for free agents and then go there to die. But he's already been there. I don't think that's just not going to happen. But I think it's a good fit with the Rams. I think that they have a chance to win more Super Bowls. Their window isn't huge, given that Matthew Stafford is already. I think he's 36 or 37, I believe. So basically, it's Matthew Stafford. Once he retires, I think their window closes. But as long as Stafford's there, I think they can win, and I think OBJ should try and get as many rings as possible with the Rams. Is what I would say.
So okay, I don't know if I agree with the get us. That just depends on him, right? Like you just said, if he wants to win just one ring, prove himself, and then go get his money, which a player of his caliber, I can see him just settling for the money because you fix the future. He's already been out for a full season before. He's already been out for multiple games before due to injury. So you never know when something can happen for your future to be in jeopardy. I mean, look at Chris Godwin now. Hopefully, he comes back healthy, right? And he's set to be a free agent at the end of he's a free agent after this, by March. So I would say go get your money. As far as what team he should go to, I don't know. I think there's multiple teams he can go to and just be successful. He's OBJ. You did bring up a very good point. He looks happier than ever. My only question to that is, well, he's happy because he's winning, right? If the Rams go into next season and Stafford starts to play like crap, turn the ball over, are we gonna have the volume number two of stats tape of Stafford missing OBJ on passes? I don't know if you remember with the Giants. Remember when Odell Beckham Jr. went to the sideline, slapped the field goal kicking net,
The net,
and then
yeah.
that thing fell on him, and then he was pissed, and then just to make up for that, he tried to be dramatic. The following week, he went and hugged it, and then followed it by bless you, followed it by asking to marry. eh, So there are times where I do feel like OBJ tends to get a little dramatic. So hopefully he can keep the same attitude when they do lose, because eventually they will. I mean, he seems happier than ever because the last couple of days he's been playing great and the team's winning, and now they're in the Super Bowl. But what happens when you lose? What happens if you go 4-4 in the first 8 games next season? Can he keep the same attitude?
I mean,
Um,
I will add to that though. When Odell Beckham first got to the Rams, when him and Von Miller both went there, I believe they lost their first like 3 or 4 games with him. And I know that would be super early on to quit on a team, but at the same time, he kept in with them, and then he turned it around, and now in the Super Bowl. I get where you're coming from though, as he has done this before, or you could say his dad did it before. I I I may be blowing this out of proportion. I feel like maybe he's actually starting to mature to the point where it's like he will
maybe.
fight for a team instead of just giving up immediately. I could be
Yep.
wrong, but that's maybe hypothetically.
Well, potentially. And I think I have the perfect fit for OBJ in my opinion, and I'll give you the answer to that in just a second, because we are going to move on to a fun little thing of asking. This is kind of premature, so we're not going to hold anybody accountable for any of this, but I'm going to have you pick a team from the NFC and a team from the AFC who you think will end up making the playoffs that did not make the playoffs this year.
Okay, so who didn't make it this year, who will make it next year?
Correct.
About the OBJ thing, I think I know who you're going to say he's going to go to, but that's besides the point. Okay, again, this might sound incredibly biased given the whole Bears fan thing. I could very well see the Bears as a playoff team next year. Obviously, free agency hasn't happened, so like you said, this is very premature. We may not sign anybody, and then I will take it back. I don't think we'll make the playoffs. But with how I'm predicting the rest of the offseason to go, if it depending how it goes, If you don't know the Bears, I think like the Bears, Packers, and maybe it was, I don't think it was the Bucks. There was another team that had like tied for the hardest schedule in the league. That was Justin Fields' rookie year. This next season, we have one of the easiest schedules in the league. Our offense is no longer going to be Matt Nagy trying to force players to fit into his scheme. But they actually, all of the new coordinators for the Bears interviewed today. And Luke Getsy, who was the Green Bay's quarterback coach, is our new offensive coordinator who's going to be calling plays. Both him and our new defensive coordinator, they have said that they are going to wait to evaluate the talent and then build the offense around the talent we do already have, which is, I don't know how that doesn't make perfect sense for any head coach. I don't know where Matt Nagy missed that memo. But also, one thing that Luke Getsy said that really impressed me is he said, even though Justin Fields is his going into his second year, he said he's going to build the offense around Justin Fields, which makes perfect sense. I know, like I said, second year, but he's our future. Whether you like it or not, he's the future, and you have to build around the quarterback, and that's what he said they're going to do. They're going to call plays that play to his strengths, which is the exact opposite of what Matt Nagy did. And obviously, it's all hypothetical till the season starts. We don't know what could happen. Getsy could be the worst offensive coordinator in NFL history. I don't know. But if he does play to his strengths, and I think Justin Fields is as talented as a quarterback as they come. He is potential out of the world. I think that they could very well make a playoff push. I'm not saying like number 1 seed or anything like that, but I could see them anywhere from like the 7th to 5th seed in the NFC. I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. I think this team has a lot of talent. What we've lacked for the past few years is coaching. Because like in 2018, when we were super good, still lost in the wild card, but we're not going to talk about that. We had, ignoring Nagy, we had good coaching with like the defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators I've ever seen. And we were good. And then he left, and the coaching went downhill. Chuck Pagano and Matt Nagy were god-awful. I think that the Bears could sneak in, and I'm going to stop ranting about them because I feel like I could do that for like an hour. For the AFC, there's so many because the AFC I feel like was so talented that a bunch of teams who could have made it didn't make it. I know you're not high on Baker Mayfield, so you probably weren't going to bring up the Browns. I think the Browns could. Baker Mayfield, he had an awful year. I'm not going to give him credit that he doesn't deserve, but he had an awful year. I'm not putting the Browns low. I know you could say, okay, I was going to say, the team I did pick is the LA Chargers, actually. I just feel like they deserve to make it. I know that they had the chance to make it, and then they lost to the Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah.
They could have tied and both made the playoffs, but Brandon Staley, not a great job there calling that timeout. But besides the point, Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. I think he's already getting to the point where he's a top 5 quarterback. I think he's fantastic. I think that he has an offense built around him. I think their defense is improving. They have good young pieces all across the board. The only thing that I think I'm worried about is they might lose Mike Williams, who's their number 2 receiver. He's probably going to get paid in free agency. He is a free agent this year. Regardless of that, though, I think Justin Herbert is in that caliber of quarterback who makes his receivers better than they are. So I think they can replace Mike Williams. I'm not saying with a better player or an equal player, but they can replace him perfectly fine. Another one I wanted to bring up, though, is, again, this isn't a hypothetical. I think the Broncos could very well make it. If they get a quarterback, I feel like, there's always these teams that we talk about are a quarterback away. I think the
Broncos have been a quarterback away for like 4 years now, though.
I know, that's what I'm saying. The Broncos are the definition of a quarterback away. Nothing against Teddy Bridgewater, but he's a game manager. He's not going to win you games. He's never been that kind of quarterback that will win you games. He will not lose you games, but he's not going to win you games. If you are in the fourth quarter, you need a game-winning drive. You don't go to Teddy Bridgewater. That's just not what you do. They didn't really have a choice. I think if they get a quarterback who I might talk about a little bit later, who is a winning quarterback, they could very well make the playoffs. And so I think one of these NFC or AFC West teams will make the playoffs that did not make it last year. Those are my picks.
Fair enough. Um, okay, so for AFC, I honestly, like you said, I think there are so many options, and I gave myself a very somewhat of an easy one. I could see the Ravens getting back in it if people can come back healthy. It's that simple. I mean, the amount of people that went down on that team this year was just ridiculous, and they were still in the fight for it up until like week 16. Um, NFC, on the other hand, there was not a lot of teams to pick from. I did think of the Bears, although I didn't go with the Bears. Here's here's my pick, and here's where I think OBJ should go, or not really should go, but could be one of the options. I think Atlanta can make the playoffs.
Interesting. Not where I thought you were going with that.
Atlanta. Who did you think I was gonna go with?
I thought you were going to say New England because I've heard that be heavily rumored because that's who
Oh,
OBJ almost picked this year. But I like
yeah,
Atlanta. I like that fit.
yeah, and yeah, Atlanta is. I think Atlanta could be a big, good one, at least to make the playoffs. Here's the thing: there's no more Tom Brady. And I don't know who the Bucks going to end up having at quarterback, but with the current options they have at quarterback, I can very much see Atlanta winning 2 more games. And Atlanta only needed to win 2 more games to make the playoffs. Um, we just talked about the Saints and Dennis Allen, but again, they don't really have too much around them to say go win all kinds of games. Atlanta already beat them this year. I think it was once
They beat them
when
the
they played.
first time, but not the second time, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right on that. And if that's the case, I can see Atlanta winning at least 1 more. Um, and the real test is how is the rest? Do you remember last year when Washington ended up making the playoffs, even though they were under 500 because the entire division sucked? That could be the case with this division next year. So I very much can see it. I think Atlanta can use a receiver like OBJ. He could for sure be a number 1 receiver for them. And on top of that, I also think that if Atlanta does some good work as far as defense goes this coming year, um, they could be a good team. Matt Ryan hasn't necessarily lost arm strength or anything like that. He can still somewhat throw the way he was throwing beforehand. So I can see that team actually making the playoffs. Um, who did you think I was gonna have OBJ go to? Was it the Patriots?
Patriots, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's a terrible choice. I don't think he should.
My thing with
Um,
that is I think that the Patriots need receivers. I know that they kind of improved with.
yeah,
I really like Kendrick Bourne. I think he's severely underrated. But then outside of that, you have like Jacoby Myers is all right, I guess. N'Keal Harry is a draft bust. They don't really have like those weapons that will provide for Mac Jones. I think OBJ would be a decent fit there.
well, my only thing is Patriots, the style of offense they play, even when they had Tom Brady, besides the Randy Moss years, they didn't go out the numbers deep down the field as often. Um, and they're definitely not doing that with Mac Jones right now. So I think putting OBJ in there, I mean, maybe it'll work out, but I just don't necessarily see that being the best fit. Um, we'll come back to 2 more of these questions here in just a second, but I do want to talking about free agency and whatnot. I do want to talk about Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Last week we talked about Aaron Rodgers buying land in Tennessee, and then there was all kinds of rumors of Aaron Rodgers potentially being traded to Tennessee or whatnot. Um, as you heard, Tennessee obviously said they're not interested in trading for Aaron Rodgers. So, what do you think his next move is, or what do you think it should be? Besides staying with the Packers. Let's
I don't
let's
think he'll
let's
stay with the
make this fun.
Packers.
Forget him staying with the Packers. He's now with the Packers. Where's he going? What's happening with him?
I don't think he's staying with the Packers anyways. And I know, like, as in 5 minutes ago, I mentioned that there's a team that's a quarterback away. I don't see him not going to the Broncos. I think the Broncos is such a good fit. Unless the Packers' asking price is insane, because, he is a 40-year-old quarterback. He doesn't have that many years left. It depends on
Is
how
he
much you want to give
40?
up. He is 40, yes. Depends how much you want to give up for a quarterback that you're only going to get like a year or two out of. The Broncos are a quarterback away. They do have I don't think they're an aging team, but they don't have a quarterback, and that's the most important position in the league. So if you want to go out and make a move to win a championship, I think Aaron Rodgers is the move to go. I know we've talked about he doesn't perform in the playoffs, which could still be the case, but you got to take a shot at some point. And I think that the Broncos should do that. They've shown that they'll go out and get a quarterback. Like Peyton Manning. They take shots. They trade up in the draft. Paxton Lynch was a bust, but we're not. They at least show that they'll trade up. They'll make moves. Try to get a quarterback to win.
Boy, was that a mistake.
Aaron Rodgers is. I hate him. I hate him a lot. Despise the guy, but he's a great quarterback. I'm not going to deny that. And I feel like in a team like the Denver Broncos, they have a great running game. Javonte Williams was one of the best rookies this year. I think he was debatably the best rookie running back, even over Najee Harris. Then you have Melvin Gordon as well, who's also a great running back. Their offensive line is solid at the very least. The receivers core is actually very good, in my opinion. I love Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton's great. Tim Patrick is underrated. Their tight ends, his name is escaping my head right now. Cannot remember the tight end's name for the life of me. I feel dumb. Point being, great tight end. Just can't remember his name.
I'm going to look this up. It's bothering me too.
I feel dumb not remembering his name.
It's okay. Just keep going.
But even regardless of that, their defense, we talked about for years, their defense is so good. Also, I know I talked about how I didn't trust him as a new head coaching hire. But the new head coach of the Denver Broncos is former Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, which I think is even more incentive for Aaron Rodgers to go to Denver. I feel like that will be a great fit. I feel like that'll basically Aaron Rodgers, you can blame the team as much as you want. If he gets
Lacoste.
What?
I think it's Matt Lacoste.
That's not who I'm talking about.
For tight end?
Yeah.
Parker?
Nope.
Well, that's their tight end, so I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
He was a first-round pick a few years back.
That is literally their tight end.
I wish I wasn't recording on my phone. I could figure this out. Point being, I'll figure this out. Not seem dumb at some point, but they have a great team. Aaron Rodgers, if you put on that team, I think will be fantastic, and I think that'll. You could look at the downsides. He won't really have excuses if he goes to Denver and still can't win in the playoffs. But I think it's a good fit. Like I said, their new head coach is the Packers offensive coordinator, has a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. I like the fit. I don't see him going anywhere else.
I think Denver is a good fit. But here's the thing, right? Here's my interesting pick. You're looking up I can hear you type. You should put your phone on silent. Here's my pick.
Figured it out. We're good.
Who is it?
Noah Fant.
Oh, I'm literally on the NFL app. I don't know why it's not coming up.
I could not think of his name for the life of me.
So here's the interesting fact, right? I was thinking about this the other day. Denver is an interesting choice because you're right, they're pretty much a quarterback away. But they also have Patrick Mahomes twice, Derek Carr twice, Justin Herbert twice that they need to play. I think it'll make it tougher than it was for him in Green Bay. And in Green Bay, he kept getting number 1 seed and can't even win in the playoffs. So I don't necessarily see Denver. I mean, a change of scenery might be good, but I don't see that being an upgrade, at least not by a margin. But here's an interesting team that I think he can go to. How about Miami? I think he can go to Miami and take Devontae Adams with him.
Okay, now I'm liking it more.
And if those two can get to Miami still has a good young defense, assuming they're coached right. They do have a new head coach. We'll have to see how that works out. But they will have the Bills and Josh Allen twice, which I think Aaron Rodgers can kind of go toe-to-toe with them. But besides that, who do you have? The Jets twice, and you got New England twice, and well, Miami beat New England. Was it once or twice this last year?
I
I
want
think
to
they
say
beat
they
him
beat him
both
both
times.
times.
Yeah. You think Aaron Rodgers can do that to Mac Jones? Yeah, I think so. Aaron Rodgers have lost against the Patriots a couple of years ago, but the very first time they played, I don't know if you remember that game, it was a one possession game, but Rodgers was actually able to pull that off against Belichick. He ended up putting, I think, 28 points or 27 points. Um, so I think Miami might be a very interesting, good pick for Rodgers to go to. Plus, Florida, warmer weather, doesn't have to stay in the miserable, cold Wisconsin little town Green Bay anymore. He can party it up.
I honestly, whenever you were
New,
saying Miami,
newly single.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a
Yeah,
thing.
apparently he is, but sorry.
I didn't like when you said Miami at first because yes, they have a good defense. I think they have a very underrated defense, but they don't have that many weapons until you added the whole bring Devonte Adams with them, which I think Devonte Adams could very well go with them. With the predictions I had, I didn't see that being the case. One thing I also want to add, I know I talked about Aaron Rodgers being a great quarterback, and I'm not going to deny that. I think he very much is a regular season quarterback. And I know I'm a Bears fan, so this is gonna hurt to say out loud. He has had the benefit of beating up on a weak division his entire career.
Yeah.
Which the Bears, they've had like in the past since I've been a fan, like the past 15 years, they've had like 3 good years. That's it. The Lions are the Lions. They've never really been good. They made the playoffs, yes, but they never really were like a threat. And then the Vikings kind of are good for a few years, bad for a good few years, good for a few years. The
Yeah.
Packers have been consistent because they win, and I think that's a lot to do with why they lose in the playoffs immediately every time, as they aren't used to playing like championship caliber
Well,
teams.
it's
To be
like the
honest.
Cowboys making the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
Who's
that's
your
fair.
competition? You don't have competition, and then you're gonna end up winning because you basically have 6 promised wins going into the season, and then you're gonna win 5 other games. You're gonna end up winning 11 games. You're gonna win your division. You're gonna make the playoffs, and then first or second round, you're out of there. That's the only difference is Rodgers ends up going to the NFC Championship game and then lose, or in this season's case, put up 10 points against the 49ers team in the divisional round at home and then lose. Um, but yeah, it's all about how you show up in the playoffs. People gave so much crap to the Patriots in the early days because they played in such a crappy division, and they said that's the reason you get home field advantage and you win. Hey, not so easy to continue winning, is it?
Which I know I picked the Broncos, and like you said, that's a lot tougher of a division. And I would be willing to switch it. I didn't really think about the fact that it's a tough division. I'm going to stand my ground, though, and I think the Broncos would be a good fit. I think,
Yeah.
regardless of the division, I think that the Raiders are going to drop off a little bit. It's just my opinion. I think the Chargers obviously are going to be good, and the Chiefs are obviously going to be good. Even if they sneak into the playoffs, I think that's a good shot. I think that defense is very underrated, regardless of how many times I talk about how good they are. Just for the fact is you don't really think about the Broncos defense because their offense isn't very good, which is strictly because I think their quarterback isn't very good. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I don't really like him as a quarterback. I don't think he'll win you games. And I feel like the upgrade from Bridgewater to Aaron Rodgers is insane. And they still won, like, I want to say 8 games this season, which isn't bad. And then replacing Bridgewater with Aaron Rodgers, I think that's another at least 4
Yeah.
games. So I think
Yeah.
that they'd
Well,
still
the
be a good
Broncos are a
team.
really good pick. Don't get me wrong. I just think that the difficulty level is
He wants a cakewalk to the
more.
playoffs. So, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Plus, why go from one cold place to another cold place? Like, why not just?
That's also fair.
Yeah.
On the flip side, where do you have Devonte Adams going? Are you going to stick
I
with sticking with the Rain or going to the Dolphins with
I
him?
think sticking with Aaron Rodgers. So here's the 2 options, right? One, Packers will have to tag him
Which they can at the moment, anyways.
with their salary cap. they and here's I think we've seen we've only seen one game, but we've seen Devonte Adams without Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't look too pretty for them, right? I think the Packers understand that Devonte Adams, as great as he is, with Aaron Rodgers, so there's no point of holding on to him. I think the maybe the best option is to say, hey, like whatever team they're talking to, like let's say for instance they talk to Miami, and you can already talk to Devontae and say, hey, do you want to leave the Packers or do you want to be with Aaron Rodgers? I'm 90% sure his answer is going to be heck yes, I want to be with Aaron Rodgers. You can give Miami a call and say, hey, listen, we'll give you Aaron Rodgers for your next, you know, your 2 first round picks, and also we're not going to franchise tag Devontae Adams. Just gonna leave that out there, right? And then Miami gives Devontae a call and say, hey, listen, how would you like to come on board if we have Aaron Rodgers? And not the best way to do it, but it's definitely doable. So that's one option I can think of. As far as Devontae going to, yeah, besides the Packers, any team he goes to, I think if I'm Devontae, I would take a pay cut just to go play with Aaron Rodgers because of the chemistry they've built and have together. It's not like a Cooper Cup. At least it hasn't proven to be like a Cooper Cup where he doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's still going to put up legendary numbers. Um, but yeah, they have such a great chemistry. It's like right now, if you tell me, and I'm not saying these two players are on the same caliber, but if Adelman comes back right now, I'll be like, bro, go unless Brady's coming back out of retirement to play with you, like stay home, just stay home. Like, that's my thought. I have a weird Gronk gonna be potentially playing for another quarterback next year, dude. He's played 4 games. Actually, I don't even think he's played 4 full games. Where was he? I
Brady.
can't remember if he was hurt when Brady was suspended.
I don't remember off the top of my head. That was a long time
Because
ago. But
Gronk didn't play in that Super Bowl. Gronk was hurt and did not play in that Super Bowl. I just don't remember in which part of the season he got hurt, and I can't remember if those 4 games if Gronk actually did play the games and caught balls. But if he did, that was the only official NFL game that he caught a ball from somebody other than Tom Brady. So
which he said if he could play with any other quarterback, he said Joe Burrow. Which
he
I want
did.
to add, I know you got a little feisty when I said it. I think Joe Burrow could potentially be like I'm using air quotes to make you feel better, with the next Tom Brady, where
There is no
obviously
next Tom
he's
Brady.
not the next Tom Brady, but he's a winner. He's shown that he can win immediately.
Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. I feel like I see Gronk retiring without Brady. I just can't see him playing with another quarterback, especially on the Cincinnati Bengals. I just think that's a weird fit. I cannot picture Gronk in a Bengals jersey. I don't know.
Hey man, did you
But
picture Brady in a Bucks jersey?
I guess that's also fair. But
Um, I'm not. So here's when I say there's no next Tom. Well, one, I don't think there's not a next Tom Brady, or there isn't another Tom Brady. Um, but that doesn't mean that you can't be just great. I think Joe Burrow could be great. And the second thing you want to take into consideration, there are so many things that just have to go right for you in order for you to win that many games and that many championship games and that many Super Bowls. That just doesn't happen. I mean, think about how freaking talented Patrick Mahomes is. Anytime, when was the last time he went on a field and they were the underdogs? But they've lost terribly in the Super Bowl because he didn't have an offensive line. He lost against the Bengals after being up by, what was it, like 21 points?
I
I
think it was
forgot how much they
21 to
were up
3.
by. Yeah,
So
so
18.
18 points. So those things need to be taken into consideration. Like so many things throughout an entire game have to go right for you. Throughout an entire season have to go right for you to be successful. And that's why I'm so confident when I say, well, there is no next Tom Brady because dude, I think a lot of people are so used to watching it that we're taking it for granted. I don't think we realize half of the time how crazy his career is.
I do think it was a lot of it was Brady was put. I'm not saying it's either all Brady's doing or all Belichick's doing. I think that's like a match made in heaven, and that was basically as perfect as a situation as you can get put in.
Absolutely.
Hypothetically, if that happens again, I could see it, but
But
I
see,
honestly,
that's the thing. Do you think, like, as great as Joe Burrow is, do you think if Burrow goes to Patriots and play under Belichick, like, do you really see them winning as much as Brady and Belichick did?
My whole thing here, I know this is gonna seem like I'm backtracking. The NFL is a lot different than it was back then, which I know
Yeah,
doesn't seem like that long ago.
yeah.
I feel like a lot of players were prone to take more pay cuts back then, which is also a lot. Brady did not take as much money as he could have, which is a big reason why. If Burrow takes like a max contract like he deserves, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but if that's what he
Which,
does,
by the way, made him one of the richest players in NFL. In case for Brady, I'm talking about taking those pay cuts for the teams, still got him paid like crazy.
yeah, I think it a lot of if we find a quarterback who's as talented as like Burrow or Mahomes is already the money he has, they're not building a team around that. But it's like say Burrow who's still on his rookie contract, if he just really wants to be a winner and he takes a huge pay cut so they can use that money to build talent around him, I could see it. I will give you that. I think a lot of it was with Brady was because he has one of the best head coaches of all time, if not the best, and the pay cuts they had the salary to go and get stars to help him out, which is a big deal. I feel like players nowadays don't do that
Yeah,
because I mean, even like not even superstars. I know this isn't football, but like in the NBA, I know like role players sometimes make almost 20 million because they just go out and try and get money. I obviously I don't know whatever the future beholds, but if Burrow does do a type of thing where he'll take a pay cut, I could see him winning as much as Brady, which sounds bizarre, but it's you gotta see what happens first.
yeah. We'll just wait it out. We have just a couple of minutes, so we're gonna make it real quick. But I did say we're gonna come back to another
Can I
again.
talk about my just throw out there my Devontae Adams pick first?
Oh yes, I'm so sorry.
We went on a
Yes,
rant about Gronk,
yes,
but
yes.
I,
Go
I'll
for it.
just I'll just throw out the team and not too much
No,
about
go
it.
for
But
it. Go
I
for it. It's fine.
I actually picked the Raiders, and I'm just gonna say the
Mm.
only reason I did that first off, I think it's a great fit. Uh, he was actually teammates in college with Derek Carr, and they've already voiced the fact that they want to play with each other, and I think it's a good fit. I'll just leave that there. We can move on because I'm kind of excited about the next topic,
You know what'll be awesome? Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos and Devontae Adams to the Raiders.
which is what both my picks are. So that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
um, okay, we have like 5 minutes, but I do want to do this real quick. So we picked the teams that are going to make the playoffs. So I want to talk about teams who actually did end up making to the playoffs, who's not going to be in the playoffs next year. NFC and AFC. Do you have any choices?
For the NFC, my pick number one is because hypothetically, I think they're going to lose a lot of talent this offseason. I picked the Green Bay Packers.
Okay,
Uh, if
non-biased at all.
listen,
I'm
I
kidding.
think the Vikings could win the division without a doubt. I think the Vikings are probably the best team in the division. With the Packers, you lose Aaron Rodgers. We've seen even with the talent they have now, without Aaron Rodgers, they're not a very good team. I don't think Jordan Love is it. Unless they get another option at quarterback, I don't see it. If they lose I think even if they lose Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, they're still super far over the salary cap and have to make moves like cutting players or restructuring
Yeah.
to get under the cap. They're going to be a lot different looking next year with probably a lot less talent. Which another team I wanted to pick, which I said I wanted to pick like a hot take, I actually picked the Arizona Cardinals. I know they just made the playoffs and look like they're on the upswing. They look, they always look awful at the end of the year. I think Kingsbury is not a very good coach, in my opinion. Also, I don't know if you've heard about the stuff going on with
Huh.
Kyler Murray.
It's almost like a couple of weeks and someone pointed out how Arizona starts off very good and then just drops off.
I think we both mentioned that. I
Remember
could
who
be
that
wrong, but
was.
I think it was both of us who brought that up. I think Kingsbury he just does that every season. But I'm trying to save some time here. But Kyler Murray, he deleted everything with the Cardinals on his social media, which I know could be blown out of proportion. There's also rumors he wants to go play baseball now instead of the NFL. There's rumors the
He's
Buccaneers want
throwing
to
a
trade
temper
for him.
tantrum.
I don't know. He's the size of a child. Maybe he's acting like a child. I don't know. But point being, I could see the Cardinals missing the playoffs because if they lose Murray, I think Murray's super talented and kind of carries the team. I think Kingsbury's a bad coach. For the AFC, I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I think is obvious. I think that they're not a very good team. Big Ben was the best quarterback on that roster, and I don't think I was very low on him. Didn't think he was great. Now they're getting worse at the position, probably. I don't see them as a playoff team.
So I'm glad you realized without Big Ben, they're not going to make the playoffs, even though they made the playoffs this year. That's actually my AFC pick was the Steelers as well. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Listen, two teams who went into the final game could have just knelt the game the entire day or the entire game, tied the score, and Steelers would not have been in the playoffs. So no, I don't think the Steelers are going to be in the playoffs. For my NFC pick, just like you said, with the talent that they're going to lose, I don't see the Bucks making it.
Okay.
Unless that makes them good, because we talk about Aaron Rodgers potentially being gone. Well, guess who's actually gone? Tom Brady's actually gone. And, even though he's going to be coming back from an injury, oh my God, why can't I think of his name right now? I just mentioned the guy.
It's about Chris Godwin.
Yes, thank you. Godwin's going to be a free agent. Mike Evans will probably be there, and a couple of players like Scotty Miller and whatnot. But they have multiple players on the defense that's going to be free agents that can go after their money. They already got their ring. A lot of them came back just to play the year, just to see what they can potentially get out of it. I think there's going to be a lot of teams gone. I think even as much as I want to give that defense and the team a lot of credit, until Brady got there, they were just such a loose 8-8, 7-9 looking team, and I feel like that's what they're going to look like this coming year, unless they get the quarterback position right during the offseason and they can get a couple of other players healthy and back and correct this offseason. That defense was starting to look real wobbly towards the end.
I think even if they do get the quarterback position right, it's hard to replace Brady, because I've heard that they want to swing big, whether it be Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson. Those are still star quarterbacks, but I feel like replacing Brady is very difficult to do. And like you said, they're going to lose a lot of talent. Yeah. I think even if they get the quarterback position right, them being anywhere near as good as they are, it's going to be a long shot.
The only good thing with Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson actually go to the Bucks and Bucks can have that type of offense around them, I think the best thing for Wilson will be the fact that besides the Rams, if Aaron Rodgers is gone and if, there's a good chance 49ers won't have Jimmy G, and there's a good chance if Kyler Murray doesn't come back, he's going to have a real shot. So, but that's basically all the time we have, unfortunately. So we will be visiting again right after the Super Bowl. So excited for that game, and check us out on our website and our YouTube channel and our Facebook. Until then, Garrett,
have a good one.
Day. Take care.
Have a good one.